A Diamond reporting there. Florence Horsman-Hogan, I mean, it's hard enough, as we know, for victims to come forward.
Absolutely.
Isn't it very hard, though, now that some are being told they're not telling the truth?
Can I say, for a start off, this is a very difficult issue. None of us had an easy time in the industrial schools. I myself was in one until I was 5, and I returned to a very abusive situation with my parents. I would much have rather ignored this whole situation, except for the fact I heard of my own industrial school being taken to the redress board, and I wanted to support my carer. I came out with my story of how good she was to me. Others came forward from other industrial schools, 130 of us altogether from 15 different schools, to say that yes, there was emphatically abuse in some of the institutions. Some of them had been abused in the institutions. Some of them were having their stories used by others for financial gain. Others knew of people who were exaggerating claims. We are not saying there was no abuse. What we are saying is there was some abuse, but the only way we can get to the truth of this is to allow the Commission to continue its investigations, to allow the religious orders their say, which in all honesty they're entitled to have.
OK, well, what do you believe? If we're talking about, you know, people before the redress board, are you talking about a few people who may be making up stories? Tell me, what do you believe?
It's impossible to say how many. There's 14,000, almost 14,400 people in the redress board. It's almost impossible to know. All I know is we, the 130 of us that were in the institutions, know of people who have been falsely accused. I personally have visited people in prison. One man had his throat slashed. He was later released from prison. We have seen terrible suffering. I can say for a fact, St. Joseph's in Kilkenny, yes, there was definitely horrific abuse down in St. Joseph's in Kilkenny. By the same token, the sister who ran that school was extremely vilified. She has 300 people each year who meet to support her because she has been so good to them. A childcare worker was accused of extreme sexual abuse. When it went to the High Courts, it was discovered physically he could not have done it.
OK, Christine Budley, is the truth as ever somewhere in the middle that most of these cases are genuine, but there are always going to be a few people who try it on?
Well, I'm not here to talk about a few people. I'm here to talk about thousands. 165,000 children went through these institutions. Florence is stating about a case about Kilkenny. I heard nothing about that case until today. Florence has stated in the past that she has gone to the Gardaí in relation to false allegations.
Not just me, Christine.
No, but you have stated,
a number of our members have gone to the Gardaí
actually today
and
as
to
well.
the redress board.
Yeah, you stated that today as well.
Absolutely, and emphatically.
Now, I have to. Can you tell me which Garda station you went to, Florence?
I personally can't.
Okay.
Because that is not fair.
Okay, I'll tell you the reason I'm asking.
Go on.
Because up until I inquired, because I'd heard this so often from you, and I think it's terribly serious that any religious person would be blamed on something they didn't do. I think that is absolutely wrong. And I think everybody who's in an institution would feel exactly as I feel, because we were so wronged, so we know what it's like to be wronged.
Christine, do you believe that some people
No, I just want to get back to the point. No, I want to just get... No, I don't.
You don't?
No. I want to get back to the point.
Let her finish your point.
No, I want to finish, Florence. Now, I inquired about what you said, and up to 8 o'clock tonight I got a phone call that you had actually not made any complaints to any Gardaí in relation of any abuse.
Excuse me.
We're not going to log down one particular case as an example.
No, it wasn't a case. It's several cases. No, it's several cases. No, Florence, I didn't interrupt you.
I need to let Florence back in. You don't help your case, either of you, by shouting at each other.
15 of our people made allegations to the Gardaí that they were being accused in the redress board. Tralee Garda Station. Make inquiries there. I can't give you the name. I'm not allowed.
I asked you a moment ago and you couldn't tell me. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for telling me.
No, that was one other person who went to Tralee Garda Station.
Well, I just find it very, very unsettling that at 8
we
o'clock
cannot
tonight,
name Garda stations.
No, Florence,
we
please
have
let me finish my sentence.
We have
Actually, Christine, let me ask you something. I mean, do you think, though, it is possible that obviously in these schools, that when the issue of compensation came up, that human nature being what it is,
no, I don't
that perhaps somebody decided,
no,
I might be able
to. Not accept it. No way. And the reason is that if you look at the newsletter from the redress board, they have stated that they had cases where people went and they made allegations, but they were not in the institutions. And there was one case single case. So how can you ask me, Miriam, can I accept people? One case, and that was referred to the DPP, and it was thrown out.
Okay.
So where does that leave?
Okay, Florence, let me put a question.
Have you been to the
come alive.
redress board? Have you been?
I would not go to the redress board.
Oh, you haven't
I don't
been?
need to.
Well, it's a pity you wouldn't tell your
principle, I
positive
wouldn't
story.
go.
Have you been to the Commission to tell your positive story?
I applied to the Commission, and the Commission wouldn't
Okay, let me
in.
ask Florence a specific question. I mean, is the possibility that quite a lot of people who are abused and are victims feel so ashamed and so rotten and so bogged down, we've all met these people, that they only got the confidence to come forward when the Taoiseach apologised for what had happened, and that's why so many cases came forward for compensation?
That is absolutely, of course, that could be true. I can't say it's not.
It is definitely
All I can
true.
say is we have no motivation to come forward to speak as we did. We have no financial backing.
Have you
from
any
neither state
evidence?
nor
Have you any
religion.
evidence, Florence, for
Between
what
each
you're
other?
saying?
Yes, we have.
You know the talk of...
Yes, we
okay,
have.
what about these meetings that solicitors were meant to have handed out tapes and, you know,
That was
leaflets
given in
reminding
evidence
people?
in the
But
Commission.
do you have
The Christian
specific
Brothers
evidence of
and
this?
We were the ones who originally said, our members were the ones who originally said to the Christian Brothers and Sisters of Mercy
See, I'm
that there
very
are meetings
concerned.
being held
But is it
around the
just
country.
rumour?
Yeah.
No,
I am
it was
very
not rumour.
concerned,
Christine,
Florence,
you know
that
that there were
so
there were
much
meetings.
about what
you
is
know
going
there
on
were
at
meetings.
private hearings at
you
the
know
Commission.
there were meetings,
Okay, Christine, do you
You
know?
can't deny
No,
there were.
absolutely.
You cannot
I never,
deny.
ever,
You cannot
ever,
deny there were
Miriam.
meetings in
Sorry,
pubs.
Florence,
please,
let Christine
Florence,
speak.
don't shout. I am not deaf. Thank you. I never, ever, ever saw any videos at any meetings. Never, ever, ever. And I have no problem if people want to have meetings.
But you accept, though, Christine, sorry for cutting off you, that compensation almost is a double-edged sword.
No.
Because obviously there was a lot of sympathy
No.
for people, for these victims, but when money comes into it, people worry.
Miriam, you weren't in my home where I had to get in a second and a third line in 1996. There wasn't a whiff of compensation.
Okay.
In 1992, when my father was here, and the phone calls I received, there wasn't a whiff of compensation. And yet survivors were telling their stories to me and to other survivors. So this is not about compensation. Florence has stated she hasn't been to the redress board. I have been to support at least
let
12
Florence
people.
come in for
We do
Florence.
not
And what
deny
they
you
have
your
back in
been
there.
through at the redress
Okay,
board.
fair enough, Florence.
We do not deny that there were people abused in the
Most
institutions.
people, most people.
So
without
why
the
do you
exception of the
deny
few
that there were
deaths.
people who have falsely accused and there are people who have exaggerated their cases? Brother Gibson's evidence in the Commission was given under oath. They have proof and it will be
Of
proven
course it
eventually.
was given that's the
They were
tragedy,
not
Florence.
lying.
It was given under
Florence,
oath,
they were not
and
lying.
yet they
We're
have...
going to leave it there for tonight,
Okay,
Christine and Florence. But
it's very, very
They
sad.
weren't lying.
we'll come
They
back to it
were
again.
lying.
They
You
were
see,
not lying.
Both
you're
very much
liars,
for
you're
coming in
saying. You
tonight.
were not in
Mark.
Golden Bridge. You don't know what you are